So people say, well, why are the rich getting richer? You know, we're filming this in Miami, and Miami beach houses are now, what, $30 million? Well, they benefited, the rich benefited from low interest rates, easy money, Fed policy. Now, poor people can afford a home for the first time, but now they can't. So at first, low interest rates are a good sign until they're not, because we view our money cheaply. We don't even have a right view of money. I mean, at the very least, Terrence Yang, do you know him from Swan Bitcoin?
I think so, yeah.
We had this discussion one time of, if we had a sound money system, what would a CD earn? You know, think about that. If we had sound money, not Bitcoin, you'd be able to store your money at the bank and earn some interest off of it, right? Because there would be some value to the produce of your labor. Now there's none. Literally, the produce of your labor is worthless because we've adopted a state theology that the Fed is all-knowing and all-powerful.
Right.
And then when a crash happens, they'll say, oh, the Fed didn't really cause that. It was due to whatever.
But I would say that central banking, the existence of it, is the reason the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's even the reason that's a saying that has stuck in our common vernacular over time, because we've always had this integration of money and state. The monopoly on violence always monopolizes money, right, to its own advantage. Like you said earlier about Bitcoiners asking, like, why do we need to believe and all of this stuff? And I kind of like sympathize with that angle, that it's so hard to try and interpret the Christian view through like kind of the scientific lens we've all inherited. Like it's very hard to see, you have to get meta with this. This also has to do with money, to see what is seeing, right? Because as you said earlier, your worldview shapes how you see the world clearly. So if you don't take off those glasses and examine them sometimes, you might not even understand what presuppositions you're bringing to the table, what assumptions you're bringing to every perception. And for me, you know, like I grew up Christian in the South, veered a lot in my adult life, came back to it through actually Bitcoin and discovering the work of someone like Peterson. And one thing that I really liked about his angle, people ask him, you know, Mr. Peterson, do you believe in God? His answer is typically something like, no, but I act as if I do. And so what I like about that answer is that it puts the emphasis on action, right? It doesn't even matter, in my opinion, so much, doesn't matter as much. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter as much what you profess to believe, what you profess to cognitively hold in your worldview, so much as it does, how do you express yourself in action in the world, right? That's what actually moves the world, if you will, much more so than what you might cognitively believe. And so I think we had it figured out with Western civilization, like life, liberty, property. That just pretty easy. It's just freedom, right? It's freedom in three different temporal dimensions. But again, we've moved so far away from that. And to pull one example, modern social justice, another of this, it's an attack on language itself, because it's not social and it's not justice, right? This is people that believe they can coerce others into behaving properly according to their worldview. So it is fiat, right? It's the imposition of opinion, the imposition of an alternative worldview onto someone. But that imposition itself is contradictory to freedom, right? So it's undermining Western civilization itself. And I think, again, if we're looking at this idea of fiat and the inherent evil of it, I would argue it's inherently evil. I think if you look at that through the Bible, we say, okay, what is fiat? Well, the original fiat was fiat lux. God said, let there be light, right? There was one decree that started everything. So all the human fiat we now have in the world, where it's like, do this because I said so or else, these are humans playing God effectively. And that always leads to disastrous outcomes. And okay, that's kind of like a theological interpretation of it, but you can look at it pragmatically in the scope of history, and you're like, indeed it does lead to disastrous outcomes every single time. If people aren't engaging in action because they want to, like voluntarily, right, out of their own self-interest, or at least in consideration of their own self-interest, then it's not going to lead to a sustainable binding of our socioeconomic systems. They come apart. I mean, there's something so tightly related here, like with our the way we technologically implement our world and then the way we perceive it. And it just seems like this idea of fiat money and legislation, and I guess distancing ourselves from God, or this idea that we can play God via fiat, has corrupted us, has corrupted our systems, and has corrupted our perceptions of the world. So